have the CHIODO brothers joining us today, Charles, Stephen, and Edward. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Oh, pleasure.
So, I mean, let me start by just fanboying out and saying that you guys are responsible for so many of not just the movies, but the pieces of movies that made my horror life growing up. Like,
Definitely.
fucking Killer Clowns, Critters, Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Ernest Scared Stupid for me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool.
So we have all three of you. We've got Charles, Edward, and Stephen. Can you guys just introduce yourselves so our listeners can sort of figure out whose voice is whose a little bit while we're having this conversation?
Well, you know what? We all sound the same, but I'm Charlie. I hope you can, I try to speak a little bit more with the New York accent. Okay. So that's me.
Where in New York are you guys from?
The Bronx.
Okay.
Very cool.
And we grew up on Long Island.
Okay.
Excellent.
Cool.
Hey, this is Edward CHIODO, Ed CHIODO.
And this is the voice of Stephen CHIODO. Hi there.
You guys are effects artists. You guys are known for everything from stop motion to puppetry, mostly, I guess, for your film and your baby, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. How did you guys start initially working together in such a specialized part of the industry?
How many years ago was that, Stephen? Was it back in the early 60s?
Yeah, I think we started animating in 1964 with an 8mm camera.
What?
Oh, my.
Making movies in the basement.
Yeah, with unsuccessful animated experimentation, because we didn't have none of that. All the effects artists on the sci-fi boys, they all suffered from the same problem. Cameras that didn't take single frame, but they all wanted to do stop motion animation. So we were taking 2, 3, 6 frames of stuff, and it was sort of unsuccessful and hard to do. So we were doing marionettes and live action stuff. We were pulling things on strings, setting models on fire, and animating G.I. Joes.
Very cool.
So you were just taking the toys you had and you were just making little animated things out of what you had available.
Yeah, we were playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. It was like playing with our toys. we were fans of Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen films, but we didn't have the technology to combine our puppets with, let's say, live action backgrounds. So we used to do perspective shots. We put our giant GIOs on a table in front of the camera to make it look like a giant with people in the background. So we were experimenting.
Before Forey Ackerman's famous Monsters of Filmland, which I got the first issue in 1960, number 11, Gorgo on the cover. Mm-hmm. That opened the door for us because we loved the movies in the Bronx and when we were growing up. And Dad used to take us to see things. Mom took us to see Seventh Voyage of Sinbad at Radio City Music Hall. And we saw Journey to the Center of the Earth. Oh. And we got turned on to Bernard Herrmann's scores. We didn't know why we were humming them when we left the theaters, but it was memorable. We saw Beast from 20,000 Fathoms and the Giant Behemoth, in the theaters. But when we saw Famous Monsters of Filmland, we said, hey, wait, these are the people that make the monsters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was really great.
And that's something like I told you guys a little bit before the interview that to me, growing up, that was movie magic because I'm very much from the camp of I don't want to paint fruit because I can take a picture of fruit. I can see fruit. I want to paint something that I could never see in reality in my entire life. And that is movie magic.
Good point.
And like Harryhausen and like that kind of animation, Sinbad films, all that stuff were huge for us growing up.
Yeah.
Where do you think we are now as far as like practical effects and where they kind of lives with cinema? Because I feel like we've gotten very distant with the CGI, but I've started to see a lot more coexistence between the two, I think.
Well, I think you'll see there's quite a bit of presence of practical effects, even in the special effects. I mean, actors love having things on the set to react to. Directors like having things to direct. With the technology on some of the new Star Wars television shows in Oblivion, you've got video screens now, so that you're not shooting in front of a green screen all the time. They're actually immersed in the environment, and that all goes down to like a practical effect approach. Even sometimes now, if you create a creature or effect that's ultimately getting replaced by CG just to give it more dynamic movement, there's still a nice tangible prop there for people to react to. So we're in a really good place where no technique is cast aside anymore. They're willing to listen to any idea you have.
We always thought it was a mixed bag of tricks. You take the best that's available and you do it. You don't just stick with one thing. So we've always referred to it as a mixed bag.
Yeah, we have an audience that's grown up on CG for the most part, and they're discovering handmade techniques, the old traditional techniques, and I think they're gravitating to that because it's more real. No matter how real CG is, it's always fake, and no matter how fake the traditional stuff is, it's always real. And I think there's going to be a curve back to seeing those traditional effects being produced in motion pictures.
Yeah, and then the fact that digital technology to, rig removal, rod removal,
Yeah.
You're not relying on heavy mechanics that used to have to be hidden. So, you get an incredible movement in puppetry techniques.
Yeah, and that would have been great to use on critters. We had to bury ourselves in the desert. We had to dig holes and work out of trenches. And the movement is very limited. You only get, left and right and, stuff like that. So that limits it. The tricks available now with rod removal and green screen just enhances it. It just like gives you more opportunities to play with the media and the storyline. Things are becoming more possible. I just watched Where the Wild Things Are.
Oh,
yeah. Spike Jonze, yes.
Those suits were impossible for someone to be in. I'm amazed they did that.
Oh yeah.
But then I understand that the features weren't animatronic; they were digitally animated. So again, it's a mixed bag.
And it's funny you say that because when I think of one of my favorite blending of practical and digital, I always go back to that film. I think of Spike Jonze, Where the Wild Things Are, because that I think it feels tactile and like still intimate with the creatures and characters all being in the same space at the same time, but you're able to just take it a little bit further.
Yeah, it was really something else. You look at it and they were real, and you knew it was impossible to be anything else. Things like I look at Rick Baker's makeup in The Grinch. Jim Carrey was terrific in it. Good. The makeup was extraordinary, but with digital effects, they could have made the neck and the proportions exactly like Dr. Seuss proportions. Sure. That's the next level.
Well, I think Tim Burton does that in his films, his Alice in Wonderland films. He actually uses digital compositing to actually make real cartoon characters out of living images, living actors. It's really it's extraordinary.
And speaking of Tim Burton, Stephen, Charles told us before this interview started that I think you actually animated his early short Vincent. Is that right?
Yeah, that was one of my first jobs when I came to LA.
I love Vincent.
That's wild.
Vincent's fantastic. I think that's a really underrated little piece.
It was one of the nicest projects I've worked on. Sure. I mean, it was just a beautiful little story told beautifully in this kind of 2D, 3D stop motion technique, designed beautifully, very heartwarming story. And with Vincent Price as the narrator, top notch.
Amazing, yeah. That's fantastic. And you guys have worked with Tim Burton not only on that, but also on Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which
I was telling Charlie before you got here that we have a
bone to pick with you about
Marge,
this one.
as I'm 40 years old, and Large Marge still if I walk into a room and that scene is on a TV, I will walk right back out of the room. That's how much of an effect Large Marge had on me at 6 or 7 years old.
Here's what my parents did. They told me if I misbehaved, they were going to call Large Marge and she was going to babysit me.
Yeah,
that's abuse.
So what we're saying is you there's a whole generation of kids that you straight traumatized. So well done.
Well, we were very fortunate to be part of that. That was a really great sequence in that film, so we're very lucky to be a part of that.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate.
Yeah, we get credit for doing it, but that was Tim Burton. Tim Burton timed it out. He told what to do. We had to figure it out. It's all problem-solving, practical effects. Sure. You're given a script and you figure out how to put it on the screen. But Tim, basically invented the Large Marge, boo scare.
Sure.
Yeah, we did a couple more times too. I mean, it was such a successful effect that other people contacted us to do a Large Marge effect. What was it? VHS?
VHS.
Weird Al Yankovic? Yeah.
That makes sense.
Interesting.
We did it for a Disney Park MGM Studios attraction, the studio tour with Daryl Hannah. And then we did it for the Nutty Nut too, Adam Rifkin movie.
Yeah.
So you guys are obviously most well known for Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Never, yeah. Well, where did you guys come up with the idea? What was the decision to really pool your efforts and go full in on the ultimate sci-fi clown movie?
Well, Stephen, didn't we want to do stop motion first when we came out to California?
Yeah.
And why couldn't we do that?
Nobody wanted to do stop motion back in the 80s. But
Yeah. Too expensive, too time consuming. Yeah.
yeah, well, the idea came from just kind of brainstorming. I was trying to think of what was the most frightening image I could think of. And for me, personally, it was like driving down a lonely mountain road and a car passes you on the left, and as you look over, there's a clown
Oh, that's
driving.
mm.
The clown being where he shouldn't was really kind of frightening.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a clown being where a clown should not be.
I would argue
Exactly.
that there's nowhere that a clown should be. Like I can't think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny, but that's a more recent, feeling, sentiment that people blame us for.
It used to be a time when you used to put your kid on the lap of a clown for pictures and from fun and joy. But
People thought they were funny.
I think people are much more cautious.
Not no more.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but the brainstorming didn't stop, there. When you get the creative people in the room, all of a sudden you ask a question like, what if the clown was floating and there was no car? And then the answer to that is it would have to be from outer space. So it's that kind of a brainstorming that creates something like that. The title was given right there. Now, the thing was, the reason we were looking for a movie with practical effects is because we were offered that they were looking for low-budget horror movies. They were looking for low-budget titles, and we were talking about how could we do something that
Yeah, we had a friend. We were working with Shelley Duvall on her fairy tale theater series, and the producer Fred Fuchs had some friends who just had come into some money via credit line to produce low-budget genre movies, and he'd seen some of our other work and asked if we had any ideas for a feature. And, so we had Killer Clowns. So we went into Trans-World Entertainment with a 25-page treatment, a poster, a one-sheet poster that Charlie had done, and a sculpture that Stephen had done of a clown holding a puppet clown holding a ray gun. And we went into Trans-World Entertainment, Moshe Diamant, Paul Mason, with Fred Fuchs, and pitched it. And our very, very first feature film pitch, and we sold it in the room.
Excellent.
That's impressive.
they didn't know. They didn't even know what they were buying. They didn't even know. They just liked the title.
I mean, I think you like the title. He says, I could sell that.
We happened to be at the right place at the right
Yeah.
time. It was somebody had money, and we're in the middle of the 80s home video boom.
And you say brainstorm, and honestly, this what this movie feels like the whole time is it feels so energetic and so full of ideas that you basically exhaust the gambit as far as what you could possibly do clown-based, right? Like everything is explored.
Yeah, that was the writing process. We just sat in a room and we did 5 pages a day, and we wrote the entire thing in a month.
No, we wrote the 3-hour version. We threw everything at it, and we had to edit it. When we were given the budget, we said, well, we can't do that. We can't do that. We put too much into it, like anything,
Well, one thing I love about Killer Clowns from Outer Space is just how creative it is with the effects. I mean, you guys get to use everything in your tool belt, from puppetry to makeup to old school camera tricks. And I think there's stop motion in there too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. There's
The shadow gag.
The shadow gag was some
Ah.
puppets that we just photographed the shadows. And then the clown that was in the driving next to the vehicle for the original concept on the road, that was a stop motion puppet.
The clown floating outside the car.
Right,
And then
right.
and the clown that leaped into the air after the shadow gag when the police car smashed into the wall.
Clownzilla was supposed to be stop motion, but we nixed that, because of the time and budget.
And just swapped it for the miniature set kind of deal.
Yeah,
Miniature set and
Godzilla.
some idiot in a suit.
Yeah, full Godzilla style. I love it. And for years, I feel like I've been hearing rumors about a sequel, remake, TV series. Is there any remote possibility of any of this stuff being true?
Well, it's a very remote possibility.
It's a question of how remote, I guess, then, huh?
Hollywood works like a glacier. It just takes forever to do
Sure.
anything. And it's like musical chairs as far as the development executive. So as soon as you get something going with somebody, they get fired, and then it's somebody else's new. It's been a journey. We've been planning on how can I say, a long arc TV series for the longest time. And who knows? We're as close as we ever were, and it's still pretty unattainable.
Well, it's good to know that it's something that you three would be interested in still doing.
Oh yeah, we have many ideas cooking as far as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
long range arc for all the characters in the film, and actually visiting the clown planet eventually. It'll be so cool.
Tell me the whole planet is just one giant floating red nose
Killer
in
Clowns is
space.
To do it, or kids or grandkids will.
there's that. You go back to the things that you remember as a kid. Remember the prisoner with the giant balloon that chased you down?
Oh man, we had a whole conversation about
what?
that show
Yeah.
like a half an hour before we got on the phone.
That's a clown gag.
Yeah.
That's a clown gag. A big red balloon chasing you, And then what's
Yeah.
good about it, because you have fond remembrance from another successful series, So that's what we're trying to tap into. Killer Clowns taps into a little bit of every movie that we love.
That's what I love about it, because it just seems like so much of a passion project, and just so much fun seems to be put into that film.
All the films we loved are in it. Forbidden Planet, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Crawling Eye, even Looney Tunes are in there. Anything we've loved is thrown in.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
when I talked earlier about how much I love Ernest Scared Stupid, which is a fantastic movie and far scarier than it has any business being, by the way, thanks to you gentlemen, I believe. And I see a lot of the killer clown in those designs, especially I think at the end we see one that looks very similar. Can you talk a little bit about the development of the trolls in that movie?
Well, the common denominator is Charlie.
Well, you know what? Yeah, it's my style. But you know what? I didn't think of the trolls out of my head. Director John Cherry was an accomplished artist, and he gave us really detailed sketches of each and names of each of the characters with descriptions. What I did is I tried to maintain his vision and just size down, because the heads were as big as the bodies on a lot of them, and that's not practical in suits. So I tried to scale them down to keep the essence of John's characters, and have them be really workable costumes. And that was the challenge. But basically I tried to stay true to John, and they just happen. We didn't have any assets from Killer Clowns except maybe some ear molds, but it was just that the unique shapes that John drew happened to be in line with the kind of shapes that I used on clowns. So it's logical that people think that the clowns were used. Had we had clown molds at the time, it would have been easier for us instead of molding everything and sculpting everything.
Sure.
Yeah, we were doing Critters 3 and 4 at the same time. So really, Charlie was the lead on that job, and he went actually on location in Tennessee for the actual production.
No, were they shooting Critters in 3 and 4 like back to back?
We shot them, back to back.
Oh, interesting.
That makes sense.
Not really.
And that's actually something I wanted to talk about next was Critters. Your involvement from the beginning with Critters. You guys designed the critter itself, or how involved with that were you?
Well, you know what? That started. We working for New Line, and who was the
Kevin Yeager.
Yeah, Kevin Yeager was too busy. He was working on the Freddy movies, and he recommended us because he was unavailable. So he wanted us to key, and we had a good relationship with Bob Shea. So they allowed us to sit in and talk to the director, and they described the character. And I came up with some rough sketches and worked with the director, just pulling from, my background with Looney Tunes. It was a rolling fur ball with teeth was a description. And then, I just went back to the Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes. I started working that, and they did variations of that. And finally, Steve Herrick found something that he liked, and I developed that a little bit further. Stephen did a maquette to nail it. And
it was interesting. In those days, we were, as a special effects company, we had unique talents. Charlie would be able to design something, and I was able to then do a maquette. So when we would pitch as a special effects company for a job, we would actually have a three-dimensional model of the character that we were going to build. And in the early 80s, there were very few companies that were doing that level of design work.
No, in fact, that's kind of how we got this job, because when we got called for the meeting, they'd sent over the script prior to our meeting, and Charlie had read it and done some sketches. But on our way to the meeting, we realized we had forgotten our portfolio.
Oh,
So all we had in the meeting was our conversation of what we liked in the movie, how we were going to approach it, and Charlie's drawings. So that really put us over the top in terms of them continuing to talk to us.
Yeah, and conceptually, the design was, I mean, it was supposed to be just a fur ball with teeth. So you think, what kind of character? It's just mostly teeth. And that's where the Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes came in. I mean, that's all it was a big mouth. And we did variations of that.
yeah, because when you look at the screenplay, it had them in the spaceship at the controls of a spaceship. They were escaped convicts. So, basically a furry ball with eyes and teeth didn't fulfill that. They're supposed to break through fences and stuff. So we had to give them some kind of anatomy, but mostly mouth with little talons that they could grab things, and the fact that the ability to be able to roll into a ball and do stuff. That was their main motive. That was their main motivation, was basically rolling, which was really easy. We solved that problem, with bowling balls with fur on them.
Is that all that is?
Well, the ones that had to go far, but the other ones were lightweight that we could throw at people,
Yeah, we developed quite the technology with balls. We had some that had weights in them, and if we put the weight on one side, we were able to get them to go around corners, and we did a lot of wire pulls with pick points out there, make them to really turn around corners quickly. By the end of it, we had the best critters bowling team.
And we discovered that technology didn't really work as well as, let's say, the low tech. We did develop a motorized critter ball with a motor inside that would roll around, and we did tests in the studio. It worked really well on a concrete floor, but then we went on location where it was an uneven pavement and some rocks and pebbles here and there. It didn't work as well. So then we went to our low tech solution of just putting weights inside balls, and we were able to give everything that they needed for the show.
Nice.
And then your just low tech solution, just sort of throwing them.
Oh yeah, a lot of that.
Well, can I ask you guys about your stuff that you've done for The Simpsons? You guys have done the Gravy and Goliath short within the cartoon.
I love those.
I grew up on Davy and Goliath, and I also grew up on The Simpsons. So your shorts in there mean a lot.
I'm sick of your lack of faith.
Yeah,
that line is forever iconic
it's fantastic.
To me. We were very fortunate. Whenever the Simpsons crew needed to do a parody of a stop motion TV show or a character, they came to us. So we had an opportunity to do the California Raisins.
Right. And tis the 15th season.
The prunes. The California prunes.
California Prunes, Gravy and Goliath. And then we also did an Aardman parody. Willis and Crumble, I think it was, of Wallace and Gromit. And actually we did a couch gag. We had the honor of doing a couch gag with Gumby.
Oh, that is amazing.
When we had the opportunity to film the first live action person ever to appear in a Simpsons episode, Katy Perry.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I directed Katy Perry with Muppet caricatures of the Simpsons. It was for their holiday show. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's amazing. So one other thing, Team America, World Police. Tell us about that. You were puppet supervisors, I believe, for that film. So were you actually still doing the puppetry as well, or were you doing everything, or were you...
No, marionette puppeteering is really unique, and it's a special brand of puppeteer that does that. We were supervising and coordinating and art directing the puppets, but no, we didn't do... Well, we did very little puppets.
So are you guys responsible for the Matt Damon puppet then?
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie has that story.
You know what? I designed... a character, and the caricatures are based on the skull because the same male and female skulls were used, and basically you had to sculpt over so that the eyes lined up, and they had oversized, Jerry Anderson, eyes, and the mouths were a certain proportion. So we had to shape the caricatures to the thing. Some were more successful than others, and we had a really good Matt Damon sculpture. And all of a sudden, when you stretched it on the thing,
mechanics,
it still looked to me. It still looks to me like Matt Damon. But when they first operated it, the guys, Matt and Trey, started laughing, and they started going, "Matt Damon, Damon," because it looked lame.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It was Matt Stone.
So that's when it became that. all the dialogue was out, and it became Matt Damon.
Yeah, it was Matt Stone. I was working second unit when that puppet came out there. Like Charlie said, the sculpture looked good, but when it got on the skull, the mechanical skull, it just looked off. And then when we brought it out, Matt saw it. Says, "What the fuck is this?" Matt Damon, and it stuck. And poor Matt, I've seen him like on red carpets and stuff, and in here in the background, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Yeah, the story that I read about that was that they originally did have lines written for Matt Damon's character.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy to know that this story has been corroborated.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was funny. And the thing,
Yeah.
the guys, all they wanted to do is no matter what we did, if it looked too good and it didn't make them laugh, they didn't use it. If it made them laugh, they cut and moved on to the next scene.
That, I think, is one of their strengths, like knowing in the instant whether or not something works. What was the most challenging thing with doing a hugely puppet-based movie, like unapologetically puppet-based movie like that?
Every day.
The turnaround. the turnaround from scene to scene.
It was impossible. The movie was impossible.
Every day was a new challenge because those guys, they're just amazing. Trey in particular, they're just freaking brilliant. They're geniuses, and the process never stops with them. Even when the camera's rolling, Trey would be changing lines. So we never knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, what was it like the day one of them came in and was like, "All right, so today I'm gonna need the puppets to poop on each other." like that can't have been fun.
We knew that one. We prepared for that.
There was no
challenge
rehearsal. We just had to prepare the poop.
I'll tell you, the sheer number of puppets was really a challenging task. There were the audience in the Rent.
Yeah, the Panama Canal. Yeah.
And the Panama Canal. I mean, I think we had 80 puppeteers at one time operating puppets in a wide shot and coordinating that many. It's like keeping kittens in a basket. It was just impossible to get everybody where they needed to be. You're talking about sometimes 15-foot string. So you had this rig up on top, a platform that puppeteers were on, and they had to hit their mark. And you had microphones so they can communicate. You had monitors so they can see through the camera. All this coordination, like a giant army, and then you had to perform. So it just took so long to get a shot going that, in fact, how many units did we have going? Ed, we had like 5 units over 2 different stages.
At the end, we had 5 units going on in the Culver City stage, and that doesn't count the time we went to Fox.
Yeah, we went to Fox Studios to shoot some while we were shooting at a warehouse in Culver City. So it was a massive crew to get the number of shots required to get the show done.
Yeah, the prep on that, to change costumes for each scene, you had to disconnect the strings, put the wardrobe on, reconnect the strings, and get like maybe as many as 10 puppets, for the inner workings of the headquarters of Team America. And then there was, the gallery scenes, Kim Jong's audience and his at his theater. There was like 50 puppets, on that stage. Puppeteers were jammed shoulder to shoulder, trying to operate these rod puppets. There were no strings in those scenes. They were rod puppeted from the bottom. So it was a mixed bag of stuff. And then, you come in with everything. We worked the crew all night to get the puppets ready for the next scene. And then all of a sudden, one day I remember specifically, Trey came in and didn't like the way the inner headquarters looked, the set dressing. So he said, "Can we change? Can we go to another scene?" We said, "Yes, but it's going to take like 2-3 hours." And they got angry at us because we had the puppets ready to go. A simple change to the next scene means we had to restring and redress, 10 puppets.
Wow.
So those are the difficulties. And we did it, but we told them it's going to take at least 2 hours, So that's the kind of stuff. Constant problem solving, amazing things. Dealing with explosives.
I'll tell you, there's a reason why you don't see a lot of marionette movies.
Exactly.
Because they're impossible to make.
Yeah, but the cool thing about that movie, talking about practical effects, every shot in that movie except one is practical. Yeah. And the only reason there's only one green screen shot in it is for safety reasons. It's when Carson jumps out of the or Joe jumps out of the helicopter and it explodes behind him. Everything you see in that movie was practical.
And would you say that was the most challenging effects for a film that you had, or was there anything that was more demanding than that?
That was the most challenging production that we've ever mounted. I mean, Edward was producing all the puppets, and I was coordinating the puppeteers, and Charlie was art directing all of the costume changes and all that. So for us, it was a phenomenal task.
Yeah, I had the fun. The fun thing was to design. I was designing the puddle of vomit around Gary.
Right, sure.
So I got to work with that. Things like that. We all had the fun of working on the sex montage. That was was amazing. And I think Trey had to get up on stage and tell us how to do it. Because the guys were being too delicate, and he said, "No, let me do it." That was a riot.
Just bash them into each other.
Yeah.
And then Charlie had some adventures. He actually went to Washington D.C. to shoot the Gary going to the Vietnam grave in D.C.
Oh.
And they were stealing shots.
They were going to do it with green screen, but they sent me and a crew to Washington D.C. to actually set up the Gary puppet for the song "Freedom Isn't Free."
Yeah.
In front of the graves, the monument, and I felt funny about it.
Yeah.
And people were coming up and saying, "Well, what's this for?" And I said, "Well, we're doing a news program for children with puppets." And they go, "Oh, that's wonderful. Let us know how it works out." And I felt terrible, and we did it. Then we found a fountain that said, "Freedom isn't free." It actually was in the marble. "Freedom isn't free." So we filmed it in front of that. He liked it so much, he made us go back again. We went to the Lincoln Monument, and the security guard said, "When this takes away attention from the monument is when I'll have to ask you to go." So they were very nice about it.
Sure.
So we were able to get the shots.
We live really close to DC, and people are testy there. So
Yeah.
You would not even get away with that these days.
No.
That's for sure.
Not now.
Oh no,
No,
no way.
You whip out a camera now, you're done.
No, you couldn't get 50 feet.
We got stopped once. We were in front of the Capitol. The mistake that was made. We were going to set up. We were going to set up Gary by the Capitol, and they made the mistake for lighting purposes. He pulled out a photographer's umbrella for bounce light. As soon as the umbrella came out, a van.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Agents came out, asked us for ID. Do you have a permit? You can do this. You can't do this. Shut down. Boom. They were nice about it, but very official and intimidating.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the ones that don't have to be overtly mean are the ones that you really need to be afraid of.
Yeah.
The ones that can speak softly are the ones that can also disappear you. Yeah. Talk to me about your favorite, in recent movies. What have you seen in recent movies, FX-wise, that you really like?
I really liked Arrival.
Hell
Yes.
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 I love that movie, and the overall concept and drama of it is fantastic. The sci-fi is incredible, and the imagery of the creatures and the language is phenomenal. I think we know the guy who did it, Carlos Fuentes, designed the characters, I believe. I love that film. Everything about it.
Carlos Fuente, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was incredible. The bear from that film is pure nightmare fuel.
That was Annihilation.
Oh yes, no. Arrival was the Dennis Villeneuve
With Amy Adams in it, yeah.
Yes,
About the
yeah,
lady.
that was
Yeah, well, it just
that one was amazing.
And the bear was terrifying. The movie was so weird and creepy.
Yes,
Very.
But it was terrifying. Annihilation, yeah.
yeah. Arrival was very stark. I
Well,
mean,
and
everything that Villeneuve has done is really, really impressive.
Annihilation to me is the closest that Hollywood has come to true Lovecraftian horror in a mainstream film.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Because Lovecraftian horror happens in movies, but it's always sort of campy or silly or kind of B-ratey. But Annihilation, that's Lovecraft horror, and it's mainstream. That's why that bear with the human scream is one of the, like you said, it's straight up nightmare.
I mean,
film.
that whole last act, honestly, everything that's happening at the end is pure Lovecraft. They're not going to attempt to explain that to you.
No.
No.
What else? What else you guys into that you've seen recently?
Well, in terms of monster movies, I'm missing. I haven't seen any really monster movies that have just just in terms of the scope of the effects that I'm watching, you know, just everything. I can't believe the design and execution.
Yeah.
So real, so perfectly real and acceptable. I just saw. I didn't watch the whole movie. I just watched some clips from the new Jumanji 4, and I'm seeing I see a herd or a stampede of killer ostriches, tens of thousands of them chasing them. They get in dune buggies, and it's a dune buggy chase. You know, and they're flipping and rolling, and the things are going, and they rip Kevin Hart out, and they throw him up, and he winds up falling back in it. And then that was one of the scenes. And then I saw the other scene that might have been at the end where they have to cross a gorge, and there's a rope bridge about 1,000 feet, and Rock steps on it and goes, "This will be easy. This is, you know, it's a piece of cake." And he steps on it, and it separates into sections and starts spinning. And they're all spinning around. So they have to do is all jump on the bridge and wait for it to rotate so they can jump to the next section across this thing. So you think that's enough, all flawlessly done. Then the killer mandrills,
of course,
jump on it and start to kill them, jumping from one to one to one while they're trying to cross, all flawlessly. I don't know who choreographed it. I'm amazed. If they gave me that script, I'd go, you have to give it to somebody else. I don't know how to do this.
Right.
That's where previs comes into play. Yeah. That's
amazing. If you haven't seen it.
Third floor fixes it all.
No, but films, the South Korean films. I mean, Squid.
Yep.
The Squid Game.
Squid Game, yeah.
Yep.
And Train to Busan. Those zombie films that are coming out of Korea now. I mean, they're great horror films. They're great spooky movies, but the character arc in them, they're really great dramas.
Train to
Busan.
For people that have not seen Train to Busan, I always like try to prepare them like, yo, this isn't just a horror movie. Like you're gonna feel you're going like everyone that I've showed that movie to that didn't know enough about it ahead of time was absolutely in tears by the end.
Yeah,
of it.
wrecked.
And like you don't expect that from a zombie film. You don't expect to be that emotionally attached to it.
Yeah, isn't it? Train to Busan has 2. I haven't seen the second one.
Me neither.
It's not as good as the first.
Wow.
Well,
Can't be surprised.
They made a prequel as well, right? Peninsula or something like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've only seen the original.
There's another one out on Netflix about a bunch of college kids where the whole town is turned into zombies.
Oh,
I haven't seen that
all of
one
us
yet.
We Are All Dead or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that either yet.
Yeah, those
And
zombie
there's
ones
another one.
get to me, you know. They
so many.
get to me. But, you know, like that one, you know, Steven, you recommended it. It Follows.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Yeah.
And what a great there's not a lot of gore effects in that film, but what they do have, the practical that they do have is so perfectly executed.
What a dilemma. What a dilemma.
I
Yeah.
was telling Jordan recently, somebody asked me what the scariest thing that I've seen in a movie in the last like 20 years is, and it's very hard to scare me in movies. The scene in It Follows where the creature takes the form of that big guy and they
Tall
open
man.
the door and
Yeah.
he dips his head under to come through. Dude, no.
Scary.
Like that is maybe the scariest thing I've seen as an adult.
It was a real surprise. That whole film took me by surprise. I didn't expect that. Babadook, is it? The
Yeah.
Australian film?
Yep.
Another great woman director, I think it was, and really different, powerful, scary, and great characters.
Yeah, agreed.
Dale, what is it? Dale and somebody conquer evil.
Tucker
Oh
and
my
Dale
God,
versus
what a
Evil.
brilliant film.
Yes.
What a brilliant
That's
film.
that's funny.
Have you guys seen The
Again, it's-
Ritual yet?
Uh,
I think it's a Netflix film. A bunch of guys go hiking in like the.
I think it's Norway.
It has some creature monster designs that really impressed me. I think that might be something you guys would like.
oh yeah, I'll check that
Yeah,
out.
you know, what was that one with that future one where they had to send you, you know, ahead in time.
Oh,
to
Future
fight
War.
The aliens, the Future Wars. Again, the imagery, I can't believe what they do. The battles, you know, with all those things, the armies of these creatures and stuff. You know, it was just amazing to watch, and I get excited by it. Again, the human story and stuff. You know, it's kind of interesting how they tie it all together. But you know, all very watchable. And I think, you know, there's some practical effects in there that are necessary. You know, sometimes I'm thinking that, you know what, we should, you know, although we have ideas, you know, we have the concepts we can give, but we have to step back and let this new generation take over with their previs and stuff like that, because movies aren't made the same way. I like to think there's always going to be filmmakers. See, but they don't afford the filmmakers to really do. We were given $2 million at a good time. If there would be $10 million and $15 million movies, there would be amazing stuff done. James Wan did amazing things in Insidious and The Conjuring for $20 million, and it made $200 million in box office. Now, the thing is with that is, they had faith in him to give him $22 million. There was nothing in there but some makeup and some decent actors, but we want to pitch a Killer Clowns that is more on the lines of, a Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sure, yeah.
And they want to give us $1.5 million. So if they gave us 20, we could do something.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't give Killer Clowns, $20 million.
But the amount you were able to do with that little amount of money is, I think, why this movie is still talked about so much, because it's such a creative and such a visual movie, and it feels like it's a more expensive movie than I guess it is.
Yeah, I mean,
we're really fortunate. We had a lot of great friends and people that would work with us and give us really great deals.
I can tell you that just to pump your guys' ego a little bit more, my wife, who does not like horror in any way, shape, or form, when I told her who we were interviewing tonight, I was like, "Oh, we're interviewing the CHIODO brothers," and she was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "You've seen Killer Clowns, right?" She was like, "Is that the one where the clown makes a puppet out of the cop?"
She's like, "Are they from outer space?"
And this is a woman who does not watch horror ever, and she's still that is iconic for her childhood. So that says a lot to me.
We're a family-friendly horror movie.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
So what do you guys have in the pipeline? Is there more CHIODO Brothers stuff coming?
We'd like to think so.
Oh, well, we have a lot of things in development. Yeah, we have a project called The Italian Odyssey about Christopher Columbus's youngest brother Vito, who goes out and proves the world is flat. It's like a Ray Harryhausen adventure with Italians.
Meets flat earthers.
All the myths and legends of the flat world come alive. That's just one.
Yeah, but we do have a movie coming out later this year. It's not an original idea by us, but we were the animation company, a thing called Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, feature-length movie that's coming out later this year. A24 is distributing it.
Oh, excellent.
Dude, A24 can do no wrong.
Based on the internet shorts, Marcel the Shell, Jenny Slade, Dean Fleischer Camp created the character, and it's a feature film based on their series of shorts, the YouTube shorts.
That's amazing. So and that's coming out when?
End of summer, early fall, or
Okay, is that coming out theatrically, or is it going straight to VOD? Or
yeah, that's the plan. That's the hope.
Excellent.
We'll look out for that for sure. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This has been really, really fun for us.
No, thanks for having us.
Oh, same here. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
Take care.